Tales of Estolia. Written by Sashina Kerfman. Volume 1. The Promise of Zacharias. Part 6. Prophecy. Chapter 11. A Perfect Fit.
The daughters of Estolia are the glue that holds Estolia together, the strength running through the history of the nation. Their role is often overlooked. From Zacharias onwards, not one Estolian man could have succeeded in the many mighty feats that permeate our past without a woman to keep his soul and bring order to his nights. Miracle Zacharian, the women of the project.
The meal was convivial. The family was as pleasant as ever. They all used English, for which she was grateful. She had already picked up some of the Estolian language, but it would be a while before she would be fully comfortable with it. After the meal, Nico escorted her to the ballroom, and they were the first on the dance floor, dancing to a chamber orchestra set up to one side of the ballroom. The evening was magical, with beautiful music and the sense of an occasion. She learned over the course of the evening that it was typical in Estolia to have celebrations on the day before, rather than the day of the birthday. It was the aim of every Estolian man to spend his 30th birthday alone with his future wife. She danced with each of the men, Nico's father and uncle, his older and younger brothers, his sister, Ria's new husband, and his cousin, Max. But most of the dances she spent in Nico's arms, reveling in how matched their bodies were. During one long slow song, Nico said to her,
"I think I never really took much notice of where you were coming from emotionally when I met you."
I had a lucky escape,
she said.
That you characterize it as an escape tells me there is trauma involved. No matter how lucky you were to escape, and especially no matter how lucky I was to have you free, it cannot be easy to wear a man's ring and then have him call it off. You told me he called you a fat circus freak.
She did not want to think about what Mark called her, which meant his words still had the power to wound. Nico stopped dancing and pulled her closely into his arms, hugging her tightly. The other dancers swirled around them, leaving them like an island in the middle of the dance floor. She reveled in the feeling of his strong arms around her, holding her tight, making her feel as if she was precious and protected. The feel of his body against her own set her heart to hammering. He pulled back slightly so he could cup the side of her face before tilting her chin up slightly.
I need to tell you what I see in you, what you are to me.
His eyes searched hers.
You don't really have to.
Mark had extolled her virtues frequently enough in the beginning, until he met Sheila.
One of the greatest delights I have, Kenzie, is how close you are in height to me. I do not wish a wife who is so small I worry about breaking her when I make love to her. So short I suffer from backache just because I like kissing her. From our very first kiss I have marveled at how perfectly you were constructed to be the correct height for me, and hopefully you feel the same, that I am the correct height for you. We are so well matched.
She did not expect him to comment on her height.
In fact, I believe you wear your height better than any other woman I have ever known of a similar height. Most tall women hunch over, or they fail to show off their glorious long legs. I have been falling asleep at night thinking about your legs and how they will feel wrapped around me.
It was her turn to blush. She had the same fantasy, dreaming of her legs wrapped possessively around his hips, his torso, his thighs, holding him tight while his body claimed hers, and she claimed him. He laughed, and she liked how carefree he sounded.
We are making a spectacle of ourselves. We should sit so we can continue this fascinating conversation. Kenzie, I want you to know how I see you. You are not required to reciprocate. I just feel a deep compulsion to share with you what has been with me since I met you.
Leon and Callista interrupted them.
We brought you a bottle of the Danieli vintage,
he said.
We thought you would enjoy it while you're chatting.
He and Callista moved a small end table closer to them, so they could place an ice bucket on it to keep the wine cooled. Once the wine was poured, the king and queen of Estolia melted away again. Nico handed Kenzie a glass of the wine, cautioning her.
This is incredibly potent wine, so be careful.
She took the wine from him, marveling afresh at his thoughtfulness. She learned that occasionally an Estolian seduced his wife-to-be to tie her to him. But regardless of what was typical, Nico was set on winning her over rather than simply storming her defenses. His comment about the wine proved his intentions. He would not get her drunk to achieve his aims.
Do you know if your eye color is genetic?
Nico asked her.
Because I am really hoping it is. I think the one thing that fascinated me the most when I first looked into your eyes was how your hair color seemed merely an extension of the rainbow you were born with.
It is genetic. My father, grandfather, and aunt all had one blue eye and one green eye. It's entirely possible we'll have at least one child with two different colored eyes.
I shall cherish all our children, but those with different colored eyes will hold a special part of my heart.
She sipped the wine. His words were like a healing salve applied to the wounds Mark inflicted upon her soul.
Zeke believes the times we are moving into are very difficult, even for those of us blessed to live in Estolia. When Zeb marries, he will be a catalyst of global change. Because of the prophecy, it is important that both the keeper and his wife are individuals with strong personalities and depth of character. Zeke states it is critical to the success of Zeb's mission that I have chosen a woman who has a strong character.
What will Zeb do?
It is not known. He went to Harvard at 16 and has been living separate from Estolia since he concluded his acolyte year just after getting his degree in international business. In fact, he attended Harvard at the same time as Leon, Max, Darren, and I. He is brilliant. In 5 years, he took a legacy from our mother, Lelaine, and has multiplied it more than 100 times. Zeke believes at least one part of the prophecy might relate to the power that comes from an obscene level of wealth. We may never know in this life exactly how Zeb will influence the minds and hearts of world leaders.
He's been here since I arrived.
She noted.
I thought he lived here.
Not to alarm you, but he returned home for my wedding. He does not plan to return again until after he himself marries at the age of 30.
After he marries? I didn't think Estolians married away from the island.
It would be impossible for every Estolian to marry here in Estolia. There are Estolians all over the world. In Spain, California, and British Columbia, there are designates who have been granted spiritual leadership of those communities. If possible, every couple sanctioned by the designate will visit Estolia to receive sanction from the keeper of the soul of Estolia. In Zeb's case, he has a most peculiar blessing.
Zeke mentioned something about it.
Yes.
He looked away from her, seeing something in his mind's eye.
When our mother first came to Estolia, the keeper gave her a blessing. In it, she was told that she would have 3 sons, one to be king, one to be keeper, and a third son to be a catalyst of change.
Nico looked around the ballroom until he spotted his mother and he smiled at her.
Zeb's blessings, his Bendenacera when he was 7 days old, and his Bendelora when he was 18, provided further clarification. In both blessings, he was told that he would not be gifted with the aura of his future wife, that he would have to forgo the greatest blessings of Zacharias so he might fulfill his destiny. He was told he would marry at 30, but he would not meet his wife prior to the hour of their wedding.
That must be hard for him to deal with.
Kenzie observed.
It is hard to deal with, but I hope he will not miss what he has never experienced. He will not really know what he has given up. Therefore, it will not be as painful as it might otherwise be.
Nico did not look satisfied with what he said. He looked mournful, as if he could imagine how empty his brother's life would be compared with his own life and their older male relatives.
It sounds like he'll need a lot of support from us when the time comes for him to marry.
Kenzie's voice was gentle. Her heart went out to Zeb. She liked him. He was a somber, serious sort of person, rarely smiling.
Yes, Kenzie, he will need every bit of help we can give him. Here in Estolia, we believe that those whose burdens are greatest also have the greatest blessings to offset and balance it all out.
It occurred to her that she was, once again, blithely speaking with Nico as if they would be a married couple trying to comfort his youngest brother at some point in the future.